All right, well, Reggie, Patrick Beverley woke up and decided to take a ride on the media carousel yesterday. He
Oh
made a
my
pit stop on
goodness.
like half the morning shows at ESPN Studios, and he had plenty to say about Phoenix Suns Chris Paul. I mean, man went off. I had to
My
double check and make
goodness.
sure I wasn't watching a Comedy Central roast because Beverley was not too kind after the Suns blowout loss to the Mavs, stating, quote, they benched the wrong person. They should have benched Chris in favor of DeAndre Ayton, who was the number one overall pick just a few years ago. Beverly also said Paul can't play defense anymore and compared him to a cone, stating CP can't guard nobody, man. Everybody in the NBA knows that. He's a cone. Give him the Ben Simmons slander. So, Reggie, let's start there. As you like to say, Pat Bev woke up and he chose violence yesterday, going off on Chris Paul. Why such harsh words for a guy who's a 12-time All-Star, a guy who led the NBA in steals a record 6 times, NBA assists a record 5 times. He was the Rookie of the Year, 2-time Olympic gold medal winner, and oh yeah, about that defense, a 9-time NBA all-defensive teamer. Was all that slander warranted, do you think?
I mean, look, Chris Paul isn't necessarily the most well-liked guy
This is
around the
true.
NBA. I mean, he was the NBPA president for years. You know, he
Mm-hmm.
advocated for players and all that. But when you look at Chris Paul and you look at his body of work, he is a pest out there on the court. You know, players like young players, old players, like anybody can get it when it comes to Chris Paul. And, you know, I've seen some young players chirping at him. I've seen some older players chirping at him. And, like, he mixes it up with the best of them, you know, like he's one of those hyper competitive players that does any and everything to gain an advantage over his opponent. And that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. And it has rubbed Pat Bev the wrong way. If you go back and remember, Pat Bev got suspended for the first game of this season
Mm,
because of his antics with who? Chris Paul.
that's right.
The two of them do not like each other. Like there is no love lost between the two of them. And so like Pat Bev like used that opportunity yesterday to get his issue off. Like he got beef, he wanted all the smoke, and that's what he gave him. And I think it was interesting seeing the commentary behind it because there were a faction of players and a faction of people who were just like, hey, he's got a point, you know? And it's just funny because one of my frat brothers brought up how, like, when Pat Bev was criticizing Ja Morant a few weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
like, people love Ja. So they came in and they packed him up. They packed Pat Bev up like, you know, Samsonite, zipped it up, got him up out the paint. Like they got him out of there. But now, you know, with the Chris Paul slander from Pat Bev, guys are just like, well, he might have a point.
Mm.
And you know, Pat Bev obviously was talking from a place of having talked to some of his peers, some of his colleagues, and really kind of forming that opinion. Now, there were other people, you know, like Damian Lillard, and people like that who were on Twitter yesterday who were voicing their opinion against what Pat Bev was saying. Like, I think Dame was like, man, Pat is talking like his word is law. He was just like, you know, he ain't him. Like he can't do what Chris Paul can do. And it's just like, well, okay, you know, I get it. But you know, it made for quite the entertainment and I was here for all of it.
Yeah, Matt Barnes came to his defense today, laying out all the accolades I just mentioned and came to bat for Paul and stating Pat Bev isn't anywhere near the level Paul is in their careers. When this is all said and done and the dust settles, like, will Pat Bev be looked at in a different light? Because we all know he loves to talk some trash, and that's why we love him. But will his name always be associated now with going on national television, slandering Paul like the way he did? Or as time goes on, will this kind of get lost in the wind over a long offseason? Like, those were some bold statements. Will this be attached to Pat Bev wherever he goes now, or just more bulletin board material in his laundry list of playful trash talk that he's always going to be known for?
Yeah, I think it just kind of is what it is. The interesting thing is, like, Matt Barnes' point was pointed, and he kind of insulted him a little bit. But I think the issue is, like, it reigns true what Matt was saying as far as, like, he and Pat Bev are guys that are role players. Don't play Pat Bev like he can't play, though, because like he's lasted a decade in this league. Like he can play, he can hoop at an NBA level, but like you're not looking at Pat Bev and asking him to get you 22 points, 10 assists, 5 rebounds. Like you're not like that's not the guy that you're looking at. Like, people call Chris Paul the point guard. And it's like, even if they don't like him per se, like you have to respect the man because like you listed all of Chris Paul's achievements and like he's a dude. He is one of the best NBA players of all time. And he's carried a reputation of not being a guy that could get it done in the postseason. And that part sucks, but give the man his respect, but also, like give Pat Bev his respect. He's maybe not the defensive stalwart as he was before. He's very, handsy. He gets in there and he's a pest as well. He tries to get under your skin. And I think a lot of guys just kind of haven't figured out, like when the Lakers were in town a few months ago, and Pat Bev was like chirping at LeBron. LeBron was just like, whatever, it's Pat Bev, it's fine, whatever. It's like nothing. If Pat Bev is doing something or saying something to get under your skin, that's on you because you know what his MO is, you know what his game is, and it's just like so many players seem to have figured that part out, and it's like, man, nobody's tripping off Pat Bev, but it's just like, look. You got to respect the dude because he's been a player in this league as well. So I don't think it really does anything for him from a reputation standpoint. Pat Bev is one of those players that he's almost like a pariah. It's like he's a great guy if he plays on the team that you root for, you love him. But if you play against him, you hate him. Like there is no like in between. Like I've never heard anybody say, "Oh, Pat Bev's cool, whatever." No, it's either like you hate him or you don't. It's like Draymond Green. Like people either love him or they don't. And similar to a Draymond Green, they play a role and they play their role well. And that just is what it is.
Analytics, it just dominates everything in sports nowadays. It's an analytic driven market, and there's still a lot of emotional and human aspects to the game that you just can't find in analytics. Pat Bev is a great case in point in that he just gets under your skin, causes somewhat of an emotional stir up, and you love when he's on your team, but man, you just can't stand going up against him. You got to respect that.